Hello, welcome to the program. On a Wednesday night, I'm Buddy Martin. If I sound and look different, it's because I got new gear here tonight. Trying it out on you. Hope it goes well. Looking forward to a good show tonight. Got some really good reporters on talking about looking for headlines. Can we find any headlines that will make Gator fans happy? Well, we don't know. We'll find out. Good lineup of people coming up at you here in just a second. Scott Carter will join us from the University of Florida. Graham Hall, one of the best reporters on the beat, will join us. Kyle Curtis, one of our regulars on the Buddy Martin Show, one of our regulars all the way on our Gator Bait Media site, and Rob Browne, who's from around the SEC. Good news show. Some of you heard of Rob. We hope you'll be able to hear him tonight. I know you will. Stay tuned. The Buddy Martin Show is coming up next right here on our all-new set in Northwest Florida.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Hello, welcome. We made it through the first few minutes of the program. Got an all brown, brand new gear here tonight. New set, new microphone, new camera. We're trying to operate it all. We got coached up by one of the best in the business, Brendan Martin. So we think we're rolling along, and love to hear from you folks tonight. You were great earlier in the week, asking you for your thoughts about the Gator football situation, Gator basketball. Tonight's program is a little bit different. We are actually looking for some headlines. And we asked some of you last week about that. You know, what would you like to see and what causes headlines, et cetera, good and bad. We've been accused of being sort of a negative Nelly around here, which is really interesting, considering the fact that we've always been called sunshine pumpers. But it's good night tonight, and we're glad to be with you and glad to have this opportunity to chat with you about things in the world of college sports. Let's see what we got here. Scott Carter's having a hard time getting in here. Let's see what's going on. Host his own. And okay, I'm going to do this. We'll get started and we'll get a break here, and we'll see what's going on with the hot software. I told you it was all new. Looking forward to having Scott on in just a moment. We'll take this moment to hear from our sponsors and back to Scott Carter after this time out. Jeffrey Meldon. Jeffrey, you do a show where you ask a lot of questions. I've got one for you right now, okay, regarding how do you know whether your case is being handled right and what to do about it. In medicine, you can get a second opinion if you're not satisfied with the doctor's opinion that they have. And do you have that in law? Can you do that with lawyers?
Yeah, buddy. As a matter of fact, we get quite a few calls from folks that have signed up, particularly with the big box law firms, that they do a hell of a good job of putting ads on TV. But after that, they don't really measure up to the way we try to create a client experience that's outstanding. And we're always willing to review a case and give a second opinion, just like with a doctor, because not all law firms are created equal.
I guess that's the normal thing. Just go to Meldon Law, Google it, and find out, and just give them a call. And like you say, if you come in, you get to see a Meldon. You don't get shuffled off to somebody else. You get to see a Meldon, and that's good to know, because a lot of people don't know how to do that stuff, like me. And maybe you can coach us through. So Meldon Law, they won't back down. They will take your questions about your case if you have a question.
Yes, whether it's a new case or an existing case, give us a call. We'd be glad to go over it with you. There's no charge to review your case with you, and a lot of times it makes good sense just to get a second opinion.
Good stuff from Meldon Law. They don't back down, but they will give you a second opinion.
Is your interview window open?
No.
Well, open your interview window.
Mine is open. Now stand by. All right, stand by, folks. We're working through this. Scott Carter's having problems getting on. No, he's not showing on the interview screen at all. So, Brendan, we'll do this. Let's see if we can get him the link. I don't know what's happening with all this new gear we got here. Let's try to send it again. Well, this is what happens, folks, when you change gear and you change microphones and whatever. And we're trying to see why Scott is not able to get in tonight.
It's open. Stand by. All right, stand by, folks. We're getting working through this. Scott Carter's house.
He thinks it's on his end, he says. It's the same, no, just working. All right, so he's there, but we can't get to him. Let me get him on the telephone and see if we can do that much at least. Brendan, meanwhile, you try to get in and see if it works, okay? Stand by, folks, for a second. We're going to try Scott Carter, and we just never know about these things. All right. He is unable to get in tonight, but we will reach him by hook or crook here. Hope your evening is going better than ours tonight. Watch a little basketball. Auburn, South Carolina. Auburn having no problems with them at the moment. Let's see if I can get a hold of Scott, and we'll get him on by phone at the very least, and check with him. We're doing a show tonight. I'm kind of checking up on things. Scott, I'm sorry you can't get in, but we have you on audio right now. Good evening to you. Thanks for persevering.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, that's probably better that they don't get to see me.
You're like me. You got a face made for radio.
That's right, man.
Yeah. We're talking tonight about a variety of topics. Let's start with a good one because I think Gator fans are looking for some good headlines. They don't seem to be able to have enough to make them happy these days. The Auburn win was an impressive one. I think now people are taking Florida serious as a candidate for we'll see, Sweet 16, whatever it might be. You were there. You saw what we saw. Some impressive play by these guys. They can be so great for short bursts, and they look like a team that could be a Final Four team. What's your takeaway?
Yeah, I think it's a team that they've won 7 of 8, and even though last night you don't want to blow that lead like they did, we've seen it go the other way earlier in the season, buddy, where they had some games that came down to the end and they lost. So the fact that they're winning them right now is good. And I was a little amazed. Just that's the first time, buddy, they've been 10 games over 500 now in February in 7 years. So I mean, I think things are going in the right direction. I really like the guard play. I think they can compete with anybody with Pullen and Clayton. Those two guys have surpassed my expectations. I think Samuels is doing some good things on the inside, and Condren and some of those big guys. I mean, the size is clearly the big difference with this team in terms of what we've seen the last 3 or 4 years. And I know that was Todd Golden's mission in the transfer portal. He wanted to get bigger, and he did that, and obviously it's showing up on the court, especially with their rebounding and being one of the nation's best rebounding teams. But if you read or saw anything after the game last night, I mean, Golden was clearly not pleased with having to get the win like they did, just kind of survive in the end. So they're going to have to figure out a way to avoid those droughts offensively, certainly in the second half. We saw the one that really stung is the Kentucky home loss, and then of course the road game at Texas A&M. But they've done what they had to since then, beating a couple of teams, and now it's the same old story, buddy. They go up to Georgia, a game that on paper you like the Gators. But again, there's an added element of, you're facing Mike White. You don't want to lose that game to hurt your momentum and also just for optics. So it's going to be an interesting week for them.
It is, and I think Gator fans are so hungry for some good news right now that this team is being embraced. But this is a fun team to watch. I like how they play aggressively. Their offensive glass is amazing, and they are. I think they're shooting the ball. The zone is the part that's hurting them right now. They've got to learn how to finish games, and people are throwing zones up. I mean, they're cooling them off. But when they're playing man and they're boarding like they are, or they say on the glass like they are, they're pretty hard to deal with. I don't care what team you're talking about, and I can't get enough of seeing guys like Roddy Kugel. Although he's streaky, he's a wonderful guy to watch play, and then of course the guard play has been outstanding.
Yeah, I think they'll figure that out with the zone because I think the scouting report right now on them is okay. Let's go to zone because they're going to beat you off the dribble. They've got really good athleticism. They create their own shots, but they don't. It's not like they have a Lee Humphrey or a Michael Frazier who is such a dangerous outside shooter. I think they have some good outside shooters, but they're also streaky and to me, just watching the team, like you hit on it earlier, it's just a more fun team to watch than really the last few years of Florida basketball. And I really like what the mix that Golan's put together. And, he's showing that he can certainly work the transfer portal, I think, and make it work, with the roster turnover of 8 or 9 guys like they've had this year. Last night, it's going to be something that you're probably going to see him, get zoned again on Saturday. I mean, Mike White, they're going to watch that game, so they're going to just have to continue to figure out ways to be better against the zone. I'm sure they'll run some different things and try to counter that. Guys like Pullen and Clayton and Will Richard, Kugel, those guys are going to have to hit those outside shots when they're there because if you don't, you're going to go 6, 7, 8 minutes without a bucket. And that's how you lose leads.
Yeah, you're right. There's several interesting stories in the SEC right now. The SEC is a tough league, there's no question. And one of them is Kentucky. I mean, Calipari's lost 3 home games. That's never happened before in Kentucky. One of them was to Florida, by the way. This league is obviously more even. There's some pretty good teams in the top unit and some pretty good teams down in the next level down. How many teams do you see? What is it? What do you see happening for this league all the way up? How many teams might get to the 64 out of the SEC?
Yeah, I mean, right now, buddy, to me, you're looking at probably a solid 7 or 8. I mean, if it continues to play out like this, I mean, I think early in the year, people thought Tennessee was kind of the class of the league, and they're still really good. But I don't see them being, superior to everybody else. They've lost a couple of games that you didn't really expect them to lose maybe a month ago. Kentucky's always going to be dangerous. I think Calipari learned that he needed to reduce his rotation, and that's what the news is out of Lexington the last couple of days. They're going to start using less guys to maybe get in a little better flow. The talent is there for Kentucky to be dangerous in the tournament. Obviously, the Gators are a team that's playing really well. Ole Miss, South Carolina's done some things of late, won a couple games. So, I just think it's kind of the new SEC. I mean, Auburn, a team that, a lot of people think they could be a Final Four team, and they come down here and get thumped by the Gators. So that's what makes the league interesting when it really gets into late February and March to see how this is going to shake out. And there are, every game's important. It's a cliche, but when you're fighting for as many spots as potentially there, every win is so important. So that's why it's really imperative for Florida right now to just find a way to keep putting these wins together, because the more you have, the better you can help your seeding. And they've gone in the span of 2 weeks playing it on the outside looking in, to now you're seeing him in that 8, 9, 10 seed range. So they can still improve on that if they can win some more games.
Yeah, a lot. As we know, it's too early now to be thinking about who's going to get in the Final Four, but just making the tournament. As we know, it's who gets hot in April and May, and it's also a very, very important thing for the programs to get there. This is the thing you have to do. You have to be able to get to the tournament to make it your program legit. Now, I think Todd Golden has done an amazing job. But if something happens, he doesn't make it to the tournament, it's been a bad year. That's kind of how it is these days.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hope is up now, right? I
Yeah.
mean, they've done what they need to do. Now people start to believe that, hey, this Florida team does look like an NCAA tournament
Right.
team. And so, it's always going to be a double-edged sword, especially for a coach in his second year like Golden. The first year was, it was what you kind of expected. A lot of players filling out the coach and vice versa. And I think he's like, okay, this is not the kind of team that I want. I want to play my way. I'm going to get guys in here to add some size, get my kind of guards. And he went out and did that. And now here they are, 17-7 in mid-February. So they position themselves really well at this point. But again, you've got to finish the job. And we know whether that's in a game that we were talking about earlier, now we're talking about the season. So you got to finish the job and get into that tournament, because I do think that would be a really good second year for Todd Golden.
Yeah.
And as you stated earlier, buddy, I mean, you know how the tournament works, man. If your guys are hitting those shots and you're playing your peak, we've seen it in recent years more than we've ever had. You can a lot of teams can get hot at the right time, and teams that you didn't necessarily expect to be in the Final Four, there they are. So, is this Florida team going to do that? And that's that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if they're playing well, like we know they can, like they did against Auburn, I could see this team getting a run in the tournament.
Yeah. Let's switch gears for a second onto football, which is, of course, the thing we talk about most on this show. And let's talk about the current situation. Today was a good day for Florida because there was a good headline out of Tallahassee. The Gators were in Tallahassee for Gator Day with a couple of guys, I guess Shamar and Graham Mertz were there. And I get complaints on this particular program about being negative. Now, Scott, you've known me for a long time. And if anything, it seems like I got more complaints of being too much of a homer. But I'm looking. I'm wanting headlines. I'm wanting some good things. I want to happen. I want to see them. But the fact is, they're hard to come by when you have shall we call it unfortunate circumstance of what happens. We see it happening. The fact that you hire a strength coach. Okay, this could happen, I guess, to anybody. But you hire a strength coach. You got him 5 weeks, and we also we're hoping to turn the corner here on these things. The first unfortunate things have happened to the recruiting season, but they survived it. And the question now becomes, when are you going to wake up one day and say, hey, things are, like Jiminy Cricket, everything's going my way, and unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. So you're looking for headlines, right? Trying to figure out what we can do to get some decent headlines. And then you get a strength coach who's here 5 weeks, and he leaves and goes to work for his buddy at Boston College. Now, not many people leave Florida and go to Boston College. Now, the first thing you think of was there's some bad news there somewhere. And then you hear the story that, well, look, this is his friend. They've worked together before. It's nothing uncommon. He seems to have given by Billy, and he's gone. However, I contend, while that may be true, that there's also the point of when you stack it on top of everything else that may be unfortunate, it doesn't come up looking good. So, I mean, you deal with it every day. What is your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, certainly Billy Napier didn't hire, Craig Fitzgerald to come down for 5 weeks. I mean, he made that hire strategically, and I'm sure it was disappointing to him for that to happen because if you've been paying attention to some of the social media accounts, you've seen Fitzgerald out there working with the guys, and he obviously brought a lot of energy, brought a lot of experience, and but it's not the end of the world. Certainly, I mean, it is. I guess you could say, as we like to say in today's terminology, a bad look, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think if you really dissect it and understand the big picture, this guy has a lot of history with Bill O'Brien at Penn State, with the Texans in the NFL. They're really good friends. And if you really go second level, you can say, well, there might be a little more job security at Boston College. At least O'Brien will probably get, 4 years guaranteed. There's not as much pressure up there. Who knows what's going to happen with the Gators in 2024? So I see both sides of it, buddy. You'd like to see some stability, right? I mean, the program's been in an era of instability really since Mullen's time, that last year for Mullen. And now Billy, the first year you kind of thought, okay, they'll stabilize because even though they went 6 and 7, you felt like, well, at least he's got some pieces in place. They're getting better players. And then we saw what happened last year, and that's why we are where we are. That's why there's this, I guess, kind of cloud right now over the program.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm sure he'll find who he thinks will fit into that role. I'm sure he'll have plenty of good candidates, and they'll move on. And you just really want to get to spring practice now, start hearing about these new players. Hopefully they have a healthy spring and nothing really negative happens, because I was talking to somebody the other day. I mean, we still got 6 more months before the first game, buddy.
Yeah.
So, it's like it's just been the off season. These first 2 months of the off season, it's felt like it's been like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we just need some quiet time and get these guys and let them do their work, because whatever you think about where the program is, or Billy Napier as a coach, or whether he should call plays, or Austin Armstrong as defensive coordinator, none of it's going to really get resolved until they start playing games. Then we'll know what's going to happen long term.
Yeah. What's it like there now, Scott? You've been around there a while. You've seen things come and things go. And the moods and swings. You've known the media and the media. What is it like on the inside, the fishbowl, looking out for you and for what's happening inside that building?
Well, I think, one thing I've learned about working in athletics, internally, from covering it from the outside, you see how much it does impact, people. This is what they do for their livelihood. I mean, they care about their jobs. They know they're in the spotlight, but as a journalist, you latch on to stories and you cover them wherever they take you, and there's always another story right after the one you finished, right? Mm-hmm. Well, here you see how they're being impacted a little bit more on a deeper level, and so I've developed a little more empathy, I think, to that regard, and you also, you get to know these people a little bit better than I'd used to as a journalist, and they're almost always they're good people. They're trying to do their job as best they can, but certainly it all goes back in sports. It will always be this. It all comes down to wins and losses, man. No matter whether you're the head coach or you're calling the defense or you're a strength coach. I mean, if you're not winning, change, and that's just part of the job. That's part of the gig, they say. So, but yeah, I think right now, if I had to capture the mood, I think people are just wanting some stability, for it to quiet down a little bit and let these guys do what they're paid to do and see how it looks come fall, because ultimately that's what it's, that's all that matters. I mean, and then, can they surprise us on the field?
Yep.
And turn some things around for the future, or if it's another, losing season, we probably all know what that means. So we'll see. We'll just see where it goes. It's one of those things. I'm one of those people. I guess I'm just at that point in my life, buddy, where I don't obsess over this stuff maybe as much as I did when I was younger because I got too much other stuff going on. But I love the passion. That's what keeps us employed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've seen it. You've seen it.
So I love the passion, and
yeah.
I will say this until I die. I mean, I would much rather be at a place like Florida where people care the way they do than somewhere where it's just kind of, if you win, you win. If you lose, you lose.
That's why we got in the business. That's why we got in the business, Scott. The great Scott Carter. You can read him on FloridaGators.com. I hope we have all our stuff figured out next time. In fact, we're going to take a short break right now, try to get this thing fixed and come back on the other side. We've got people standing by, with, including Graham Hall, etc., trying to get in, having the same problem as Scott. Scott, thank you so much, my friend, and we'll talk to you soon. Scott Carter.
Have a good night.
All right, thank you. All right, folks, that'll do it for right now. We're going to take a little break and go back and see what's happening to our stuff here, and we'll come back for the rest of the show. Come back in a couple of minutes right here. All right?